And like the policy is just so the hospital's not liable, it has to leave in a wheelchair so that nothing happens to the baby.
Exactly.
So they're probably worried about a lawsuit or if the baby gets sick because it goes outside. They're just protecting their asses. I mean, you can't blame them.
Now to clarify, she said assets, not the other word. So a couple days ago, Robert Kennedy's son, Douglas Kennedy, had a brand new baby, and he tried to take the infant outside of the hospital to get some fresh air, and the nursing staff actually stopped him in front of the elevator and tried to hold him so that he could not do so. We asked a couple people what they thought, and here's what they think.
As I said, well, as Mr. Yachty said, that if they have that bracelet, they're not allowed, the doors will lock, they won't let them leave. But it's done, A, to stop somebody from taking the baby. It's not authorized to take the baby, it's also for the baby's health. Very often in the first few days of a baby's birth, they're checking for infection, they're checking for a lot of things, so it's to protect the baby. So do I think the dad should have taken? No. Mother, yes, when the mother's ready and the baby's healthy enough to go. Hospitals aren't known to keep people longer than they need it. Because right now, they try to get people out of the hospital as quickly as possible. So I would say no, I would agree with the hospitals. The father should not have taken the baby.
So I don't really know anything about the legal issue, but as a matter of health, I know that if the mother and the child leaves the hospital and for some reason the infant has to be hospitalized, the mother has to be hospitalized with the infant. And there's this whole nursing issue that I think there is a difference between a man and a woman, in that first 24 hours. And I don't think the hospital invented a policy for no reason. I think there's the infant's an admitted patient in the hospital, and and you're basically not allowed, anyone who's been hospitalized, you can't leave the hospital until the hospital releases you. So I think there's a just basic fundamental issue of violating policies that are in place for a reason. So I come out and I think he was wrong. I think it seems to me it was more like arrogance than anything else on his part.
Okay.
Keep in mind though that the hospital policy is that the baby has to leave the hospital in a wheelchair with the mother. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, there has to be a good reason for that policy, don't you think?
Right.
And I don't know, how old was the baby?
It was only moments old.
Exactly, then it probably should have stayed in the hospital. Like, there's germs outside, things could have happened. What if, God forbid, he dropped it? Oh. God forbid, I know. And like, the policy is just so the hospital's not liable, it has to leave in a wheelchair so that nothing happens to the baby.
Exactly.
So they're probably worried about a lawsuit or if the baby gets sick because it goes outside. They're just protecting their asses. I mean, you can't blame them.
On the question of whether Douglas Kennedy was correct in leaving the hospital with his newborn baby, I would have to look at that question in a couple different parts. The first part is the violence that ensued, how he treated the nurses. That's one question. I don't think he was correct on that. The other part of the question is, what was the rule? If the rule is the baby has to leave with the mother, and the mother has to be in a wheelchair, I would question that rule. Why is that rule in place? I would ask the question, are men being treated unfairly under the rules? Is there equal protection of the law? What is the law? What is the rule? The baby has to leave with the mom. I would question, why can't the child be in the arms of the father? So that's one question, equal protection under the law. In this situation, the hospital does have to make decisions for the health of the baby, but if the baby is otherwise healthy and leaving the hospital in a timely manner, can the baby leave with the husband or the father or the significant other? If not, there should be a very good reason why not. And I would look at that. I think it's important to look at all roles.
So I'm here, Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, what are your thoughts on this topic?
As far as I know, given the information that I have, you know, hospital policy is hospital policy.
Well, I don't know how true that is or why they would stop them. But if you wanted to take the baby outside for fresh air, I don't know why they would stop him unless the baby was sick. So until I knew all the particulars and why, I couldn't really comment on it other than that.
Well, whatever the rules of the hospital is. If the rules of the hospital is that you are not allowed to take the infant outside without A, supervision, B, the mother, okay, and it has to be held a certain way, protected a certain way. Whatever the rules of the hospital is, that's what he has to adhere to. So if he's not adhering to it, he's 100% right.
Which side do you agree? Do you agree with the nursing staff side?
Nurse, because the baby can die if it doesn't like get taken care of the first few hours after it's been born. So he could have killed his own baby.
The baby shouldn't be outside in the first couple of weeks of being born. There's just too much bacteria and infections in the air. So no, it should not be allowed. The hospitals have rules for a reason. My wife works for labor delivery, and the baby can only leave with the parents. And there have been cases where fathers have taken the baby and not come back. So there is rules for a reason, and they can't break it just because somebody wants to go out and have take his baby out to the fresh air.
I think he should have been able to take his kid out because it is his child, and I think the nurse's force was a little bit too much, and that required him to do drastic measures. And
exactly. And after seeing the video, you mentioned you saw the video, you know, what would be your reaction if you're Douglas Kennedy and you're here walking around, you just want to take your brand new infant out to get some fresh air? Well, how would you react to that?
I think in a way it's kind of like he was trying to defend his child, because like the nurses were trying to take his kid, that he was just going to go walk outside, and it wasn't like he was going to try and harm the baby in any way. I mean, I know it was against policy, but like he still had the right, I think everyone had the right to like hold their kid and do whatever they want, like take him outside, as long as it's not like obviously hurting the kid or anything in any way.
All right, well, thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem.
I appreciate that.
See you.